This segment of the Alice Stewart Show is brought to you by Aero Plumbing. For all your household or business plumbing needs, call Aero Plumbing at 1-866-PLUMBER or schedule an appointment online at aeroplumbing.net.
And we're back on the Alice Stewart Show, 7:34 on what is turning out to be an absolutely beautiful Wednesday morning. And we are a little over 80 days from the election, and a lot of folks are out there. As we just heard, Congressman Tim Griffin, he is going to hit all of the counties in the state, so that is quite an undertaking. And Laurie Lee joins us here in studio. Laurie, great to have you here.
Well, good morning.
And we've been keeping an eye on for some time. I remember back in the 2012 presidential campaign, traveling this country on bus tours and meeting all these folks, Tea Party groups and Patriot groups and various organizations that were trying to form groups to get out the conservative message, limited government fiscal responsibility. And some of them ran into trouble with the IRS. They'd put in their applications. The IRS would deep six it or slow roll it or make it not happen. And of course, that's when the IRS scandal erupted. We're talking 2012, 2011. That's 3 years ago. And questions were raised. How did this happen? The IRS said, well, it's rogue agents in Cincinnati took it upon themselves to try and stop in their tracks these conservative groups. Now we know that it goes all the way to D.C. Lois Lerner, head of the IRS, is responsible for this. She says, first off, basically, I didn't do anything wrong. Oh, but now I'll plead the fifth. And so the members of Congress, through several committee hearings, have subpoenaed her emails. And the crux of this case, which is a valid case, and the president has even said that, first off, there's concerns with this, and then he says there's not a smidgen of corruption. Here we are 3 years later, and still trying to get this information. Of course, she says that her hard drive crashed and there's no way to get this information. Now, 3 years later, yesterday they had a hearing on this, and they talked to the actual technical officials. No comment on that, technical officials. They went through a very explicit, detailed explanation of what exactly happened with the hard drive, and evidently this just cannot be found. Does this defy credibility to you?
This defies all logic. This defies the fact that they must think that the American people are absolutely a bunch of, and they do. This administration has always seen the American people as a liability, as just a bunch of lemmings that he can order around and unilaterally magistrate to. And this is indicative of that. The fact that this lady was able, and I use that term loosely, to retire and receive the benefits after this shenanigans, illegal shenanigans, is beyond the pale of reason. I don't. This, combined with the other things that have gone on, the horrific policies of this administration, I cannot understand why the American people are not in the streets, going to Washington, just absolutely saying, no more. We're not taking this anymore. And to do that, we have to make sure we've got this election cycle coming up, that people get to the polls, because, folks, this is what happens. Elections have consequences. And, we elected as a country this guy twice that nobody knew anything about, that very few people, if any, really agreed with his policy. The ideologues on the left wanted him in office, and they don't even like him anymore. They're just sticking with him because he's a Democrat. And so, it's really imperative that people do the vetting of their candidates and the policies that they support with factual information and get to the polls. We talk a lot about polls and the things that can they say, but you can poll all day long, and if you don't get to the polls and vote, nothing's going to change.
Right. And this situation with the IRS, the hard drives, it finally had gotten to where, all right, you say you lost them, Lois Lerner. Let's get to the experts. And after months, they have gotten the, quote, experts on this. And it's laughable, the millions of dollars we spend on security to secure this information. But we have these technical experts who have done what they could to retrieve this information. They say their efforts were fruitless. Some of Lerner's emails were lost. We had two IT officials insisting they did everything they could to recover learners' lost files. Senior information technology specialist recounted how he ran multiple tests on the hard drive and attempted to recover the data, but to no avail. He says there was no external physical damage to the hard drive, but it was later taken to be worked on by a more senior technician who found critical problems that could have been electronic or mechanical, but both were unable to fix it. And
isn't it funny how where's the server in all this? Even if my hard drive crashes on my computer, every email, everything that I've sent is on a server somewhere. I mean, I really am talking out, I mean, I'm not a techie person, but I know that I've had computers crash before and had to go buy new ones. And you just recently had some computer problems. Were all your emails lost?
No,
they're all on a server.
I for a brief moment, they thought they were. I did cry a little bit, maybe a little bit in the Apple Store, but they were there. They did find them, and everything was retrieved. And I'll say this: I'll refer to this many times, but I was blown away last week. I was able to meet Andrew Heller, who is a man in Texas who invented the cloud. So he knows a thing or two about computers.
Yes.
Brilliant man. He talked, and I was often, I don't understand what you're talking about, but he's brilliant. And I asked him about how he came about. He worked for IBM, how he created the cloud. It's used now by the Defense Department. How do you do this? And then I said, by the way, this IRS thing, the lost emails, I said, are they really lost? And he's like, no. He said, absolutely not. There's no way you cannot retrieve. There's right. No way. He said, even if they ran over these with a truck, he said, this information is specifically a government agency of this size would have backups. Some way, shape, or form.
But the backup got messed up, remember?
He says there's no way.
And everybody she sent the emails, their computers crashed too.
Yeah, and I said, well, you invented the cloud. Your stuff is with the Defense Department. You can get in there. And he goes, I could do it in no time. He said, but nobody's asking. They're not asking anyone that knows how to do it because they don't want it.
That's right.
Anyway,
right.
The point is like for all this time, we've been really wanting to get, quote, the experts to really confirm this information is non-retrievable. However, evidently they can't retrieve it either. So
it's just a dog and pony show up there for the the placation of those who are saying, oh, you can do this, and then they think if they put this story out that we sent two experts to do it, that we're going to buy into that. And it's just not going to happen. And this is going to be like Benghazi and the CIA stuff and the other stuff. You know what? It's a different world out there, and people are not going to easily forget this stuff. And I think this kind of stuff follows. I mean, look at what's happening to the Democrat Party on a national level, but break it down just to Arkansas. I mean, you can go down to the very basic level of city council and sheriff races and things like that, and they are struggling because of this president and the shenanigans that he has done like this across the board since his tenure.
Yeah, and they are distancing themselves from him for many reasons, and we're seeing even, of course, Mark Pryor is distancing himself, not having him come down here to campaign. Hillary Clinton now distancing herself from him on foreign policy because he's made some mistakes in that area. So it's interesting. All right, we're going to take a break, and we'll come back, and we'll look at voter ID laws that have been challenged in court here in Arkansas, some progress on that. Laurie Lee will join us with that conversation coming up right after the break. I'd love for you to follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Facebook, you can go to Alice Stewart Show. On Twitter, it's Alice Tweets or Alice Stewart 965. Give us your thoughts and your feedback. We'd love to hear it. We're going to take a break. We'll be back. This segment of the Alice Stewart Show brought to you by Arrow Plumbing. For all of your household or business plumbing needs, call Arrow Plumbing, 1-866-PLUMBER, or schedule an appointment online at arrowplumbing.net.